Today we're going to take a look at another attempt to answer what might be the most difficult question in all of FPV. Why do I have to buy a whole bunch of different things, figure out what works together, make it all work together, screw around for weeks or months, and then finally I just get to fly? Can I not just spend a little money, get a box with everything I need in the box, ready to go, out of the box? I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. The product that we're looking at today is the BetaFPV Aquila 16, and it is similar in some ways to other products that are already out there. This is not the first attempt to take everything you need, a quadcopter, a controller, a set of goggles, hopefully some batteries and a charger, to take everything you need, put it into a box, and sell it to you for a reasonable price. But I am excited to review the BetaFPV Aquila today because BetaFPV have done some really innovative things with it. It's got some flight modes that Betaflight quadcopters, even big powerful ones, usually don't include, that are going to make it, well, supposedly going to make it easier for a beginner to fly. We're going to find out if it lives up to that. And I have to say, as I start unboxing this, that I always have a little bit of trepidation when I review a BetaFPV product. And I'm going to get this right out of the way right at the beginning because I think it's only fair to you. BetaFPV is sincerely innovative in the things that they do. They are always trying to make FPV easier to get into. And more and cheaper. And the problem is that sometimes their ability to actually manufacture quality, reliable stuff doesn't quite live up to their aspirations to come up with new and interesting and exciting things. You see what I'm saying? So with this being a brand new BetaFPV product, I don't know whether this is going to turn out to be one of the good ones or one of the ones where 6 months later, everybody's like, oh yeah, oh that, oh my God, never buy that. And I can't know that. No one can know that until this product has been out long enough to find out. With that out of the way, let's take a look at what I've actually got here on the bench in front of me. And I'm always happy to see when manufacturers include documentation. So many things. Wow. Start guide. Oh, this is a really thorough manual. Take a closer look at it later if I need to answer any questions. It's nice that it comes with a really thorough manual to help a beginner get started. I, of course, will know everything I need to know already because I'm a professional. Here we've got the little drone. And in many ways, it's similar to other drones in this size class, but in one way it's different, and that is the battery mounting. This type of quadcopter would typically come with a little battery like this that you would strap with like maybe a rubber band to the quadcopter and you would plug it in. But BetaFPV have come up with this little self-contained battery with a built-in case. And it's not quite what you might think. Like if this was a DJI battery, it would have a USB-C plug for charging. It would have a built-in charging circuit and a built-in battery management circuit that would do things like detect if the battery was overcharged, prevent you from over discharging it, and basically protect you from being dumb. This right here, I am going to assume that it is just a battery stuck into a plastic case, but it is kind of nice that like, oh, here we go. We're going to slide this sucker on here. We're going to, how's it go on there? There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it slides right on there. That's pretty freaking slick. That's pretty freaking slick. It is nice to know, however, that this is a standard BT 2.0 battery connector. It's not some new proprietary standard where this quadcopter will only work with these proprietary batteries that only BetaFPV makes. Many batteries are available with the BT 2.0 connector, and we can just look at the specs here and see that this is a one-cell battery, 1100 milliamp hours. That's a 1S 1100 milliamp hour. That's a big battery. I'm not sure I'm aware of any 1S 1100s made for quadcopters in this size class. That's a weird one. Maybe our flight time's going to be longer. Anyway, we could buy these batteries from BetaFPV, or if we have some BT 2.0 batteries laying around, we could just use them. We'll just have to rig up a way to stick the battery down, like some rubber band or something to hold it down. Well, if I'm going to fly this quadcopter, I'm going to need this battery charger to charge up the battery. And it's very simple. We just plug in USB-C to a USB power source, and we plug the battery in here. Time to go back to the case and see if they've provided some kind of an adapter or a cable or something. Aha! They have. Okay. So we've got an extension here. There we go. And plug into USB and let it charge for a little while. While the battery's charging, let's check out the controller and the goggles that come with the quadcopter. Here's the controller. It is a version of the BetaFPV Light Radio 2. I can tell because when I take off what used to be the battery bay cover, it says here, Light Radio 2 SE ELRS. The fact that this controller is running Express LRS is very good news. Express LRS is one of the best performing control links that we have today. It has exceptional range. Like this hand controller's range is going to be so much more than the video transmitter on this that you shouldn't really even have to think about this ever fail-safing. The limitation on the distance you can fly is going to be the video transmitter and the goggles. Let's just go ahead and power this up. There we go. And blue. And then if we plug in the quadcopter, we're just going to use this battery while the other one's charging. We plug in the quadcopter. There we go. Solid blue light. And if we just flip the arm switch, it arms. It's ready to go. We're going to fly it in just a minute. What about the video? Here are the goggles that the system comes with, and they're fairly well made. They feel pretty sturdy. They don't feel super cheap, although they are plastic. We've got an antenna that lifts up here or folds down for storage. It's a nice little touch. And we do have an SD card slot so we can record the video that we are getting from the quadcopter, show off all our exploits, or find out where the quadcopter crashed when you crash it in the grass and you don't know where it was. And here on the left side, we've got controls for starting and stopping recording, getting into the menus, and changing the band and channel that the system is on. Continuing around the left side of the goggles, we've got the charging port. They do have a built-in battery, and we've got an on-off switch. Let's go ahead and switch them on. And the first test of this system will be, when I turn these goggles on, are they on the right channel so that I see video in the goggles? It's a small thing, but many bind and flies skip this step. Here we go. Moment of truth. I'll let you see. Yes, well, it's a little hard to get the focus exactly right, but in fact, I do see myself. It's on the right channel. That's fantastic. And I'm also happy to see that the system is set up with some useful information in the on-screen display. There we go. How about the fit of the goggles? First question is, if you have glasses, can you wear the glasses over the goggles or under the goggles? And the answer is maybe, but no. Probably no. There is no focus adjustment or diopter adjustment here inside the goggles, but it's close enough to my face that even with my relatively strong, like -6.5 diopters, even with my relatively strong prescription, if I plug in here, I can see I could probably fly like this. A lot of these goggles will just be a screen sort of flat against the back of the goggle, right? Vertical. And basically, you're just staring at a screen that's in front of your face. And some of them will have like a little lens that kind of makes the screen look bigger. But the problem is, focusing on a screen that's like 4 inches in front of your face can be really tiring to your eyes. There's a technique that these goggles use. They didn't invent it, but many cheap goggles skip this technique, where you can see that the screen is actually flat against the top of the goggles, and there's a reflector that reflects the screen down so it appears to be in front of your eyes. And that basically doubles the distance. So instead of you having to focus at a distance of like 4 inches, you're focusing at a distance of, well, more, and it's better for eye strain. It's a really nice touch. As far as the fit goes, I gotta say my expectations are quite low on goggles like this. Like, the strap is decent. Like, you've got a lot of flexibility here in how tight to make the strap relative to the size of your head. I do have to say, though, the nose piece down here is super sharp, and I can really feel it on my nose. I don't know if it's leaving a mark. Most of the pressure is taken here around the forehead and around the sides, so depending on the size of your nose, you may not feel that as much as I do. Guess what I'm saying is I have a big nose? I don't know. But it's very uncomfortable here, and I would like some padding on the nose piece there. The controller comes preset with a few different functions. You've already seen the arm disarm function, of course. This switch here changes you between normal mode, sport mode, and manual mode, and we'll check those out while we're flying. This switch here changes the speed limiting of the quadcopter, fast, medium, and slow. And I'm very interested to see how they've implemented that. And then finally, this switch changes the video channel. So if I flip this one time, once, 2, 3, 8 should bring me back to, there we go. There are 8 different video channels that this video transmitter can be on. The idea here is if there's other pilots flying, they're going to be on some of those channels, and if 2 people are on the same channel, then they interfere with each other. It's very nice that BetaFPV have thought to map that to a switch here. This is an example of the kind of above and beyond thinking. Like they're clearly thinking outside the box and going, how can we make people's lives easier? It's a simple thing to do, and it's very cool that they just took the time to do it when so many other people don't. We can also access functions of the quadcopter, and maybe I shouldn't show you this if you're like a super beginner, because you could screw things up. But if we actually take the sticks and we go center throttle, yaw left, and pitch forward, we get into a menu with some configuration options. LED options, calibrate, VTX. Aha, the VTX can be either FCC or Japan. We'll stay in FCC. And we can increase the power of the video transmitter from 25 milliwatts up to 350 milliwatts. We're going to leave it at 25 milliwatts for now because the higher output power will make it overheat faster. But when we actually go out to fly, we're going to want to turn that up to 350 milliwatts so we get more range. Okay, armed and raise throttle to take off. The throttle is doing nothing up to 50% because we're in the altitude hold mode where it will maintain its own altitude. And so the throttle isn't going to directly control the motors, it's just going to raise and lower the altitude. There we go. Okay, let's get her out in the sun. The camera is not fantastic. Let's see. How good is the altitude hold? Not bad. Let's fly forward a little bit. Oh, why are we going into the ground? We're drifting. Let's get it out in the sun so I can actually see what I'm doing here. There we go. Camera doesn't like being in the dark, that's for sure. Okay, so altitude hold. Is the throttle at 50%? There, throttle's at 50%. And it's doing a pretty good job. It actually looks like it's doing position hold as well. Does it have an optical flow sensor? What? I think it might. It's actually doing position hold. It's not drifting. That's pretty impressive. It's actually kind of cool that it's fighting the wind. That's pretty slick. It's fighting the wind. You can see it leaning to the left. It really is. It's really smart. It's controlling my descent rate as well. If I fly over here, it doesn't seem to do a fantastic job of tracking its height above ground. Like, it's definitely gained some altitude. And if I fly this way uphill, will it be smart enough to not let me hit the ground? No, see, it's getting close to the ground. How will it fly into the ground? It's slowed down. Okay. It will let me hit the ground. I have to raise the throttle. So the altitude control isn't perfect, but it's way better than what you'd get off of like just a regular tiny whoop, which wouldn't have any altitude control. What if I shift the speed from mid to fast? How fast is fast? Oh, that's a little fast. Oh, that's not bad. Oh. It's struggling. Oh, it's fast enough to get yourself in trouble. Why is it not stopping? Why is it not stopping? I'm not pushing forward anymore. Oh, it doesn't do braking. So when I get up speed here, going forward, if I then release the stick, it's not smart enough. It levels out, but it doesn't really... I don't know. Why didn't it slow down there? That's weird. Okay, the camera is absolute trash in the dark. Look, I cannot see a damn thing in these shadows. If I go into the shadow, does it get any better? It opens up a little, but not very much. Oh, the camera is a real struggle. Like, I know this area real well, so I know what not to crash into, but boy, you can't. If the lighting is at all challenging, the camera is a real struggle. So, okay, this is pretty cool. Okay, what about we switch to... Can we not switch the mode while we're flying? What about this one? There we go, sport mode. Okay. Now in sport mode, do we still have speed control? Oh, sport mode is just angle mode, or you know, auto level mode. So in sport mode, it recenters, it levels itself out, but it doesn't do like position hold. You have to actually control where it is. And I don't think the speed... Oh, the speed control controls how far it tilts. Watch. Do you see how it leans forward more when you switch to fast? So that's controlling the angle limit. That's pretty slick. So the speed control is not really a direct speed control per se, but it is like it forces you to not be able to go as fast, even though it's not a specific like meters per second. Pretty cool. Let's take her to fast and fly some in sport mode. Oh god, but I can't see where I'm freaking going. Well, when I can see where I'm freaking going, it flies... Oh, okay. 3.4 on the battery. I feel like it could go a little further. 3.3, 3.4. 3.2. Okay, now we gotta really slow her down. The battery's holding in really well. When I hit the throttle, there's not like a ton of battery sag. The voltage doesn't sag. I don't... Where am I? There I am. Oh, where'd the video go? I flipped the switches and I changed the video channel, but it's smart enough not to change the video channel while you're flying. So I have to get back on the right channel again. You can't read the dang text that shows you what band and channel you're on when the screen is jumping because you're not on a band and channel. It's just static and it's jumping, and the frickin' menu text also jumps. You're probably wondering what's frustrating me so freaking much, and I think you might run into the same problem and be frustrated by it, so I'm going to do my best to illustrate it to you. What I can do is I can press the scan button, and the way it's supposed to work is if you press the scan button for 1 second, then it goes into this menu. Let me show you. So it's at this menu, and that's all of the channels and bands that these goggles support. And we can use the band and channel buttons to... So right now we're on F1. If I press that button, and now I'm on F2, F3, F4, I can scroll through the F band, and then if I press the band button, now I'm in the R band, okay, and I can set it on a given channel. And that's great if you know what channel your quadcopter is on, like you would if it was like a full-fledged one where you were changing the band and channel using some method that you understood. But here, we've only got this switch, which we flip, and then we're on a different channel, and I don't know what channel it's on. There's no way for me to really know that. So what I do is I scan, and here's how we scan. What we do is we're going to press 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and it's going to start scanning. Look at the top of the screen. Here we go. The camera's having a hard time picking it up, but it's scanning all the available channels. And then whichever one is the strongest, it will pick up on. And on top of that, I can single press the S key to get here, and then double press, or 2 second, hold the S key, and it will begin scanning all the channels there. Wonderful, wonderful. Except, for some reason, randomly, it stops working. I'll just hold down the button and it won't start scanning. And then whenever I release the button, it acts like I just went bloop and did a single press. And I have no idea what causes it. And I just have to turn the goggles on and off, and then they start working again. The other problem that I run into is up here at the top of the screen. Here we go. In red text that you can just barely see, it shows the band and channel. F1, 5740 is the frequency, and 99 is the signal strength. But if I unplug the quadcopter, now, what channel are the goggles on? You can't see because it's bouncing around. So even if you knew what band and channel the quadcopter was on somehow, like, I don't know, then you couldn't easily set it to it because it's freaking unusable. So you'd have to scan, but the scan doesn't work all the time. So, as I was saying, in manual mode, you can do all the acro flippy floppies that you want to do. Whoa, whoa, that's fast. Wow, I was not expecting it to be that fast. Let's try turtle mode, which flips us over after a crash. Yay, that worked. Arm, and that was faster rates than I expected. Wow, they're going bonkers with those rates. Wow, they are really serious about acro. Jeez. It does all the flippy flops, but you have to know how to fly it. Learning to fly in acro mode is challenging. Oh, oh, oh. We're at really high battery here. How are we doing? Oh god, oh god. The battery is not... Oh, no, 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 no. It doesn't acro very well at all. It doesn't acro very well at all. It's got underpowered motors and it has a problem called yaw washout. You see, as I came over the tree, it kind of went... So it's not made for acro, but you can use it to learn to fly in acro mode. There's a lot to like about this little quadcopter. For a total beginner, I think the ability to sort of have a rudimentary position and altitude hold that mostly kind of works is very, very cool. You normally have to go up to something like a DJI drone to get really good position hold, and then you're spending a lot more money. How much money does this cost? Hold on. The flight time, quite good. They advertise 8 minutes of flight. I got about 6 to 8 minutes of flying. Well, you know, depending on, some of it was hovering, some of it was going a little faster, but the advertised flight time is quite good. And a lot of people object to the fact that many FPV drones have like a 2 or 3 minute flight time, and FPV pilots are just kind of used to that. We just change the battery and go back and fly some more. But especially people new to the hobby, they want to fly a little bit longer without having to change the batteries too much. The range on the video transmitter was about as expected for a little quad like this. It's advertised at 350 milliwatts. I don't know how accurate that is, but it was a very, very comfortable range. I got all the way to the other side of the field, and I really only started losing video because there's a hill between where I was standing in the field. So very, very acceptable range. They've done a lot of things right. For the controller, the gimbals feel good. It is light. It doesn't feel super cheap in the hand. It doesn't feel super hefty or premium either, but it feels like it kind of gets the job done. I have to acknowledge that turn it off there. I have to acknowledge that BetaFPV has had a problem with their light radio controllers in the past where the gimbals, the solder joints holding the wires to the gimbals, failed. I know one person who bought 20 light radios for his school program. Every single one of them, the gimbals failed. I don't know whether that is true for this light radio, or whether BetaFPV have fixed that problem, but that was a problem in the past, and I mention it every time I talk about the light radio because it has been a problem for a long time. This one may be the same, we just don't know. I also feel like the raw performance of the goggles was not terrible in terms of their ability to pick up and display a signal from an FPV drone. The image that I saw was pretty awful, but that's more to do with the camera and the drone than it is to do with the goggles themselves. I feel like these would be relatively usable goggles, except that the ability to change channels is significantly hampered. If you weren't using the auto scan function and you knew which channel you wanted the goggles on, it would be relatively easy and consistent to press and put them in that menu so the screen isn't shuddering, and then from the menu change to the band and channel you wanted. It's slow, but it will get the job done. There are better goggles out there that you can get for $100-ish. You know, considering that these come in a kit ready to go with everything, I think that these are not like the worst value in the world. If you are looking for better goggles around $100-ish, can I recommend you check out my website, www.fpvknowitall.com, home of my ultimate FPV shopping list where I suggest products for people to buy in the FPV world, and there's a whole page about goggles at different price points. I'm also pretty pleased with the performance of the drone. We already talked about the normal flight mode, which has speed and position control for absolute beginners. The altitude hold wasn't perfect, but it was enough help that, like, as a beginner, you might go, oh, I'm getting close to the ground, and you raise the throttle a little and it climbs. It really softens the learning curve for somebody who's looking to get into FPV. And then as you transition and get more comfortable with the controls, you switch to angle mode. which they're calling sport mode, I think. And then you have a little bit more freedom, but a little bit more control, but still some guardrails. And then you switch to full manual mode, of course, and now you can do, well, you actually can't do that much, because once you switch to full manual mode, if you start trying to do real acrobatic stuff, it immediately hits a wall and just falls apart. So it's not going to be good for learning acro, but by that time you'll probably be ready to move to something with a little bit more capability. $250 though. $250. Oh, I didn't tell you how much it costs yet, did I? It's $250. And I hate to say it, but in this day and age, that's pretty normal for what we've got here. What we've got here is a half-decent quadcopter, a pretty cheap but usable controller, a half-decent, pretty cheap, semi-usable goggle, and it costs $250. There are other kits out there with similar setup, but what they don't have is they don't have the ability to do the altitude control and position control like this one does. And in some of the cases, their goggles aren't quite as full-featured, like their goggles may not have a DVR. I gotta say, though, I think you should do this is not like a clear win when you compare it to other similar kits in the $200, $250 price range. There's a couple others that I think you should look at, including the Emax Easy Pilot Pro, which I think Emax has a little bit better track record in terms of their build quality. And I think the Easy Pilot Pro has a little bit more capability than this does if you try and push it into acro mode, but not much more. And the Emax Tiny Hawk Freestyle, which has a much better flying drone, but it's going to be require a little bit more practice for a beginner. It's not going to hold your hand quite as much. I'll put product links to those down in the video description below as well. I'll put some cards on screen. I know I reviewed the Easy Pilot Pro. I might have reviewed the Freestyle as well. They'll be a little bit dated, but I will put some cards on screen if you want to see more about that. See you there.